Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Andrew, and today I'm taking over from Caroline just for one day to give you some level 9 creative writing tips. This is for any student who's aiming for a top grade, and it's applicable for any exam board. This is for the English language GCSE. Firstly, before we get in on how to level up your writing, I wanted to talk about some common errors. So hopefully you're not looking too much like this student we can see on the slide when you have to tackle a creative writing task. The first common error is insufficient preparation for the longer creative writing task. Many people think that English is a gift that you either have or you do not have, and you cannot change anything about that, and that is not at all correct. Beyond reading more and practicing trying to expand your vocabulary, there are certain pieces of exam technique, which I'm going to be showing in this video today, which can highlight to the examiner that you are a grade 8 or 9 candidate. Secondly, some students get too obsessed with questions earlier on in the paper, which might be worth only a few marks, and they poorly manage their time, so they only leave a few minutes for questions that are actually worth a lot of marks at the end. A third top tip is remember the nature of the exam. You are not expected to write the next Hollywood blockbuster. You just have to create a fairly short creative writing piece in the time given. You don't have to do a very complicated plot with 15 different characters. In this case, it's better to have a simple, concise story, but full of rich language and that's very well written. And finally, do not include cliches, such as I woke up and it was all a dream, which anyone could see coming, and also will be a bit of an eye roll for the examiner. I wanted to remind you that in any creative writing piece, it is important not to go in already having memorized a story, because it's absolutely essential that what you're writing about refers to the question on the exam paper, because the examiners are well aware that anyone can have this technique of memorizing a story and then hoping that something vaguely related comes up and then writing it anyway. Well, that's actually not the right thing to do, because the most important thing is that what you are writing about is related, well, completely responding to the prompt or question in the exam paper. However, the one thing that you can control is that in any question that you will be responding to, there will be weather. And there's certain ways that we can use weather to show the mood of the characters or show the general mood in the creative writing piece. For example, leveling up descriptions, instead of just saying it is rainy, which is maybe a level 3 or 4 description. It really doesn't tell us anything. It's telling us about the weather, but not really much else beyond that. We could say a drizzle teased the pavement, just enough to smear the dust into sorrow-coloured streaks. This tells us the effect. Well, it doesn't directly tell us anything about any of the characters. It's just talking about weather in this case. But if you read between the lines, this is creating an atmosphere of, well, sorrow, as we said. A second example is a fine mist hung in the air, soft as breath, soaking through clothes before you'd noticed. So in this sentence, the rain is not as dangerous or portrayed as such a negative force. When we have hot weather, we can think of the different ways. It's the same thing. How is this weather changing the ambiance? How is it changing the atmosphere of the story? So the first example, the sun blazed overhead, turning pavements into griddles and thoughts to treacle. This is explaining the completely tiring aspect of the hot weather when you're so drenched in sweat you can't even find the courage or energy to carry on. And in the second example, even the air felt tired, heavy with heat and the slow shimmer of midsummer stillness. So we've got some really nice repeated sounds, such as midsummer stillness. And beyond the sound of the sentence, it's portraying the same sort of idea. But imagine if we had a positive connotation of the hot weather. It could be something talking about the sun kissing your protagonist's skin. And even though we're explaining or describing the same weather in all these examples, we can see through this description the effect on the character. Instead of saying it is windy, you can say the wind tore through the streets, scattering bins and dignity alike. Or you could say it howled around the eaves. Oh, maybe meant to say leaves here. It howled around the leaves like a fell beast, desperate to get in. Once again, we're seeing the dangerous nature of windy weather here. When we're talking about cold and snowy weather, we can avoid cliche descriptions like saying, oh, it was, I don't know, the snow was perfect, it reminded me of a perfect Christmas, things like this that don't actually really add anything to the story. We could say, for example, in the first example, frost clung to every surface, crisp and cruel, biting its bare skin like spite. We've got a very clear negative atmosphere created with this first sentence. And with the second one, it's the complete opposite. Snow settled quietly overnight, tucking the world under a pristine white duvet. So here it's, like I just said, it's the complete opposite of the first sentence. The first sentence is making you think of that time of winter when your hand, the skin on your hands is completely cracked. It hurts to go outside because your skin is getting attacked from all directions by the icy pellets or snow or anything cold. And then in the second one, we see the snow as a very peaceful force of nature. So this is another example. You can use these sentences in your creative writing, and like I said, although you shouldn't be memorizing stories, you can memorize maybe some descriptive words or short sentences which you can reuse in different stories if it matches the atmosphere. And finally, for foggy and overcast weather, instead of saying it was foggy, it was overcast, it could be the fog was thick enough to taste, curling into collars and thoughts alike. Or clouds loomed low, the sky a dirty dishcloth refusing to wring itself out. If you enjoyed this video, I really encourage you to check out Caroline's course, which is Elite English. Here is the link to the website, which you will also find in the description of this video. She will boost you from a grade 4 or 5 to a grade 8 or 9. Thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video.